Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Today, oops, we did it wrong, Skinner's cooking show experience.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning in again to join us on this fine, almost still spooky evening.
And might I add, it was a fantastic Halloween. The school festivities were a hit, I must say. The decorations, the costumes, it was like stepping into a haunted mansion. Just lovely, as always.
Absolutely, the kids went all out with their costumes. Did you see Milhouse? He had that towering Frankenstein mask that was actually terrifying.
Terrifying. I had to duck every time he passed by. I think he mistook his mask for a battering ram. And Mrs. Krabappel's witch costume, I swear, she looked too comfortable cackling into that cauldron.
Don't remind me, that laugh gave me flashbacks to detention. But overall, what a night. Between the haunted house and the games, I'd say it was one of the best we've ever had. The kids are still talking about it.
A well-earned win for the school and the community in town, and here we are back to share another wild story with our listeners. Speaking of which, Skinner, you've been bouncing in your seat since we sat down today. What's this big news you've been dying to share?
Oh, Chalmers, you're not going to believe this one. So, last week, out of the blue, I received an invitation to appear on, and now, listen closely, oops, we did it wrong on MemefieldTV.
Wait, oops, we did it wrong. That absolute chaos of a cooking show.
The very one I was a guest on, one of Memefield's most unique productions. And to make it even more hilarious, I'm pretty sure Loomis of Failing had something to do with it. Remember how Loomis commented a few months back about loving the show?
Oh, yeah, Loomis didn't he? Loomis has that wild sense of humor, all right. But you, on a cooking show. Skinner, I didn't know you could even manage instant noodles without a catastrophe.
Well, I admit, I may have, overestimated my culinary prowess. But hey, how could I say no? I mean, it's practically a Memfield legend. And to be honest, I love a little chaos as much as anyone.
Oh, I can't argue with that. But oops, we did it wrong takes chaos to a new level. Every episode I've seen ends with the kitchen in a full-scale disaster. I'm talking smoke clouds, broken plates, mysterious sauces that no one can identify.
Exactly, I think that's why they invited me. They knew I'd fit right in, and honestly, it was a blast. I got there, and the set looked like someone had decorated with whatever they found in a random garage sale. There were rubber chickens hanging from the ceiling, inflatable pineapples by the stove. It was a fever dream, Chalmers.
Let me get this straight. You walked into a studio where the decor included inflatable pineapples.
I kid you not, and the host, Mabel Sup, lives up to her name. She welcomed me by spilling an entire bag of flour all over my shoes. She actually wanted to shake my hand, but she dropped the flour. What a great start.
Oh, this is gold. I can picture you standing there, covered in flour, trying to keep a straight face.
I was a walking, talking dust cloud. The whole crew was cracking up, and Mabel just shrugged, said, oops. We did it again, and moved on as if it was totally normal.
A true pro, I bet, that did wonders for your stage nerves.
Oh, it broke the ice all right. After that, they handed me an apron with guest chef written in crayon, as if they were trying to emphasize, don't expect much from this guy.
Laughing well, you must have fit in perfectly, so Loomis of Failing, if you're listening, thank you for inspiring Skinner's culinary adventure. Let's see what you experienced in the show. I want to hear every single detail from behind the scenes. I watched you very closely in front of the TV, and I think, darling, you did a great job.
Oh, thanks a lot, darling. So you're going to love this, Chalmers. The week leading up to the show, absolute pandemonium. I had exactly 7 days to get my cooking skills from Burns toast regularly to, well, hopefully something a bit more passable.
7 days? That's ambitious, Skinner. What did you even start with? Boiling water.
Very funny. No, I started with something much more sophisticated. Pancakes.
Laughing pancakes? Okay, fair, but let's be honest, how did that go?
Let's just say I underestimated how much flour can spread across a kitchen. I think I sneezed out powdered sugar for the next 2 days. And the pancakes, well, they had a certain rustic look.
Rustic, Skinner, that's just code for disaster. Did any of those pancakes even look remotely edible?
I tried Chalmers. After my unfortunate first attempt, I decided to up my game and try an omelet. Just eggs, a little cheese, simple, right?
Skinner, please don't tell me you messed up an omelet.
They didn't just mess it up. I made an abstract art piece. It stuck to the pan. I tried flipping it, and boom. Cheese everywhere, eggs everywhere. I think even the ceiling got involved somehow.
Laughing, oh, this is priceless. You were training to be on a cooking show by redecorating our kitchen in egg splatter chic.
Hey, don't judge. Those online cooking tutorials make it look way too easy. I must have watched like 50 different videos on how to properly use a whisk.
50 videos, Skinner, it's a whisk. Stir.
Easier said than done, my friend. I still think there's some secret technique they're keeping from me. But the worst part was knowing everyone in Memfield would be watching. No pressure, right?
Though, right, the whole town tuned in. I bet you were imagining the neighbors just glued to their screens, wondering if you'd set the studio on fire.
The exact thought crossed my mind more than once. It didn't help when I ran into Mrs. Gilmore from next door. She saw me practicing in the kitchen one night, and the next day she just shook her head and said, "Don't worry, we'll cheer you on anyway."
Brutal but supportive, I like it. So tell me, did any of that practice pay off, or were you still whisking eggs all over yourself when you showed up on set?
Let's just say the apron I wore on the show had to work overtime, but I managed to make a few dishes by the end of the week that didn't immediately look like they came from a disaster zone.
Now that's progress, Skinner. At least you showed up ready to handle the chaos, or at least give the chaos a little competition.
Haha, very funny, Gary. But let's start again at the beginning when I arrived on the set. Walking onto that set, Chalmers, it was like stepping into some kind of kitchen carnival. Everywhere I looked, there was something bizarre like actual inflatable pineapples bouncing around near the ceiling, and then hanging right in the center, a giant 3-foot-wide faux pizza slice with sequins.
They really go all out with the props, huh? So what'd you think? Did you feel like a chef ready to take on the world, or a tourist who just wandered into the wrong part of Memfield?
A little of both, honestly. But just as I was taking it all in, I heard this voice behind me saying, "Welcome to the madness." And I turn around and it's Mabel Mix-Up herself, coming towards me with a big smile and a massive bag of flour.
Oh no, I see where this is going. Let me guess, she didn't quite make it across the set without a mix-up, did she?
You'd be right. 1 second, I'm shaking her hand. The next whoosh, there's a cloud of flour everywhere. My black blazer went straight to powdered donut mode in about 2 seconds.
A baptism by flour. They should make that a ritual for every guest on Hoops. We did it wrong. But hey, I bet that broke the ice pretty fast.
Oh, absolutely. She just laughed and said, "Well, now you're part of the family." And honestly, it felt like it. From that moment on, the whole crew was just so welcoming. They even had this intern come over and start handing me ingredients right away, but here's the kicker, none of them were labeled. They all had question marks on them, like some culinary mystery game.
Wait, so you had no idea what you were working with? You could have been handed anything.
Exactly, I was standing there holding a jar with a giant question marks on it, thinking, is this flour, sugar, or sawdust? Mabel saw the look on my face and just said, "That's part of the fun."
It sounds like the show lives up to its name. So was everything really as chaotic behind the scenes as it is on camera?
Actually, not at all. The crew was incredibly organized. Believe it or not, they had this whole system in place to make sure everything ran smoothly. Even though Mabel is famous for her clumsiness, they have all these safety measures behind the scenes in case of any oops of moments.
Really? I always assumed that place was one spilled soup away from total mayhem.
You'd think so, but no. They had fire extinguishers, first aid kits, even a plan if someone accidentally burned a dish or cut themselves. They actually did a little tour before filming, pointing out every exit, safety measure. There was even a backup Mabel on stand, by in case something happened to the original. The backup host said she had been doing the job for a long time and had never had to step in before. She also works in the editorial department of another program and sometimes brings her little daughter to the set, where she plays with the inflatable pizzas or something. I tell you, it was a very friendly crew.
So it's a professional operation with just a dash of intentional chaos. I love it. How was the crew besides from that? Anyone else there besides Mabel and the mystery intern?
Oh, they were amazing. The makeup team, for instance, was just so kind. They calmed me down, gave me tips on how to stay relaxed on camera. One of them even told me which angles would look best so I didn't have to worry about what camera was pointing at me.
Good to know your close-up was taken care of, Skinner.
Hey, it helped, and Mabel was actually super supportive right before we went live. She reminded me that the whole point was to have fun and make people laugh, and she meant it. She kept saying it's not about getting it right, it's about getting it funny. That's what the Memfieldians want to see.
Sounds like Mabel's the perfect mix of chaos and charm. And those tips on camera angles, that's A-list treatment. So, were you still nervous? Or did all of this make it easier?
Oh, I was still nervous, don't get me wrong. But they even had little signs that lit up to remind us where to look, and a friendly cue person who would nod whenever the camera was on me.
They thought of everything. It's like you were a celebrity for a day, Skinner. How did that feel?
Surreal, to say the least, but honestly, by the time they counted down to the start of the show, I was actually feeling, well, ready. The setup was just so warm and inviting, it felt like I was just about to cook up something fun with friends.
Well, from the sounds of it, you were in good hands, and hey, flower dusting aside, it sounds like they treated you like a star.
Flower dusting, mystery ingredients, and all. It was all part of the experience, Chalmers. So, to the next chapter, they set me up at this little station with all these jars labeled in the weirdest ways. One said powder, maybe, and another one was labeled not sugar, but close. I mean, how am I supposed to bake with that?
Not sugar, but close. That could be anything, for example, salt or residues from industrial painting and coating processes. This is because spray painting and other coating processes can release volatile organic compounds that can lead to fine dust and end up in the glass.
Well, I'm sure they only used safe foods for that.
Well, it's possible, you know. Maybe it's just because of being used to your usual cooking with random stuff outside the window. But anyways, did they just go down to the spice aisle blindfolded?
Nah. I thought I'd be clever and try to sniff each jar to figure it out, but they had this one labeled pepper, which, for some reason, was cinnamon, right next to not salt, which turned out to be sugar.
It's like they're actively working against you. Did you end up mixing anything strange together?
Oh, you bet. So there I was, trying to follow these cryptic instructions that said things like, whisk until it feels right. What does that even mean? I stirred for about 5 minutes, then thought, okay, I guess this feels right. Then I went to add what I thought was cinnamon. Turns out it was paprika.
Paprika in a cake batter? Skinner, please tell me you realized before you put it in the oven.
Not even a little. I thought it was just a strong cinnamon, so I kept going. Tossed it right in, mixed it up, and into the oven it went. I'll admit I was a little suspicious when the kitchen started smelling like taco seasoning.
So you baked up a dessert with a kick? You basically made a spice cake without even trying.
Oh, absolutely. It came out smelling like some kind of sweet and smoky experiment gone wrong, and the best part? Mabel comes over with this look on her face, takes a whiff, and just says, "Oh, that's adventurous."
Adventurous. That's Mabel's polite way of saying, what in Memfield did you just make?
She said it was all about exploring bold flavors, which, okay, fair. But I'm standing there trying to salvage this cake when she calls out from across the kitchen, stir until it feels right again. What does that even mean?
Stir until it feels right. It's like the wisdom of a baking oracle. And did it ever feel right?
I don't think I'd know if it did, so I just gave up and went with it. In went my surprise ingredients, and I ended up with this cake that was not entirely terrible. It was sweet, it was spicy, and kind of like eating a dessert taco.
A dessert taco, Skinner? You've invented the world's first fusion of cake and salsa, the Memfield Special.
Hey, that's not a bad name for it. And somehow, by the time we all sat down to taste everything, people were actually intrigued.
Wait, so people actually tried it? I assumed they'd take one look and run for the hills.
Mabel practically dared them to, and believe it or not, it wasn't a complete disaster. It had this kick from the paprika, and the sugar made it surprisingly edible. I guess the surprise in the surprise cake was just edible chaos.
Laughing, I'd call it a win.
All right, Memfield, if you're feeling brave enough to try this at home, now I'll do my best to give you the recipe. Though, fair warning, this is going to be more of a guideline than an exact science.
Perfect. Listeners, get your pens ready because you're about to make history. Skinner's Memfield Surprise Cake, or as I call it, Dessert Taco Delight.
Dessert taco delight, I love it. Okay, here's what I remember. First, you start with the usual suspects, about a cup of flour. The instructions didn't say if it was cell, braising or not, but let's assume regular, so throw that into a big bowl.
All right, regular flour check. So far, so good.
Then I think it was about half a cup of sugar. I found this one labeled not salt on set, so just sugar, please, not anything else. Add that in there with a dash of salt unless you also get confused by the label and skip it, like I did.
A true recipe of legends. Okay, flour, sugar, maybe some salt, a little note here. Not too much, Van Gogh. So, what's next?
Next, we move to the spices. Now, normally, you'd add a teaspoon or so of cinnamon if you want that warm, cozy flavor, except in my case, it turned out to be paprika.
So you'd actually recommend a teaspoon of cinnamon unless they're looking for the surprise factor, right?
Exactly, but for authenticity, I guess a quarter teaspoon of paprika is optional if you're feeling adventurous. So, mix those dry ingredients together in a bowl. Then we're on to the wet stuff.
All right, what kind of chaos happened with the wet ingredients?
Surprisingly smooth on this one. Add about half a cup of melted butter or oil. I used butter, but honestly, oil might have saved me a few minutes after my whisk battle. You want it nice and melted if you use butter or a vegan substitute, which gives both a bit more flavor.
So we're swapping whisks for butter melters. Got it. What's next?
Now, add 2 eggs or a vegan substitute, like silken tofu or guar gum, and about half a cup of milk or oat drink. If using eggs, crack the eggs right into the bowl, be confident, or as Mabel would say, put some flair into it. You could go with vanilla extract here too, maybe a teaspoon.
Put some flair into it? Did Mabel actually say that?
Oh, she did. So dramatic about it, too. Crack it like you mean it. Skinner, I wasn't going to argue with that kind of enthusiasm. Anyway, whisk everything together in the bowl until it's just combined. Don't overdo it. Just get it looking like a smooth, battery masterpiece.
Smooth masterpiece batter. I'm imagining it. Is this where the magic or mayhem happened?
Precisely. Once you've got the batter ready, pour it into a greased cake pan. But here's the twist. Just as I was about to put it in the oven, Mabel told me I'd missed the surprise ingredient.
Of course she did. What was the surprise?
A handful of chocolate chips. They handed me a cup labeled mystery mix with chocolate chips inside. I threw them in the batter, swirled it a little, and into the oven it went.
So, chocolate chips and paprika. I'm intrigued. How long did you bake it?
About 30 or 40 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or for the people who use sensible units, about 180 degrees Celsius. It came out with this gorgeous golden brown top, and, well, the taste was unique. Sweet, chocolatey, with a hint of spice. It was like eating a dessert with a little attitude.
Attitude indeed. So, what should we call this for the cookbook? Still dessert taco delight, or maybe more Skinner's spicy sweet surprise?
That's perfect. Skinner's spicy sweet surprise. Part cake, part adventure, all Memfield.
Listeners, there you have it. Memfield history in the making. But tell me more, what happened after your baking session?
Well, there I was, Chalmers, about to try my hand at flambe for the first time ever while my cake was baking in the oven. Mabel's giving me this pep talk, like, just pour the brandy in and light it up, no biggie. So I poured in, light it, and whoosh, the flames were massive, bigger than I'd ever seen.
Oh no, Skinner, you and fire a dangerous mix, and bigger than you have ever seen. How is that even possible? I guess Mabel looked worried.
Oh, she looked calm until the flames hit the ceiling. Then she's shouting, Skinner, I think that's enough flambe. I'm flapping my hands around like that's going to help, while Mabel scrambles to find the extinguisher. The whole studio was just watching us in complete awe and panic.
And no one thought to jump in and help.
Apparently, they were enjoying the live entertainment too much. It was oops. We did it wrong, to the core. Mabel finally gets the extinguisher, but she accidentally sprays me first instead of the pan. I mean, the team already had the fire extinguisher in their hands. If something had gone wrong or spectators were in danger, they would have jumped right in.
Good to hear. And of course she sprayed you. Was it powder or foam?
Foam, my whole chef's apron, my hat, and I'm just drenched in this stuff. The audience was losing it, laughing, cheering. Even the cameras didn't cut, they zoomed in.
Skinner, you realize that moment went viral, right? The internet has officially labeled you as Memefield's new celebrity chef.
Oh, I've seen it. There are memes, Chalmers. My neighbors are sending me clips with captions like, Chef Skinner, bringing the heat, literally. And you know those joke articles like, is Skinner a danger to kitchens nationwide?
Oh, I love it. You're famous, Skinner. I bet even Memefield's finest chefs are shaking.
They better watch out. I bring flair to the kitchen. I mean, it was chaos, but I guess that's the charm of the show. I'm the guy who turned flambe into a fire drill.
And now it's internet history. So, what's next for Skinner, the chef? Any plans for a cookbook or an Instagram food account?
Not a chance. I'll stick to cooking for myself. Thank you, at least for now. So, just as I'm wrapping up this insane challenge and thinking I'm done for the show, Mabel springs it on me. Skinner, she says, we've got a little twist for you. And she hands me a single green banana. I needed to create a fitting drink that goes along with my cake.
An unripe banana for a cocktail or what? They really did you dirty with that one, Skinner.
Right, I was staring at it, thinking, what am I supposed to do with this? But I had no time to question it, so I just peeled the thing, mashed it up, and ran it through a strainer to get as much juice as I could. It was barely a tablespoon, but I thought, why not? Threw it in the blender with everything else, crossed my fingers and hoped for the best.
Though, Skinner, you brave soul, mixing banana with a spicy, sweet cake and what was it, paprika.
Paprika, yep, so I had spicy, sweet cake, and this experimental cocktail with a hint of green banana. I thought I was doomed. But the taste test was up next, so Mabel and this guest judge come over to give it a try.
Oh, I'm dying to know what they said. Did they take a bite and keel over?
I was ready for that, but unbelievably, they actually liked it. The judge took a sip of the cocktail, nodded, and said, it's surprisingly delicious. I thought he was joking.
So they loved your wild creation banana, paprika, and all. Skinner, this might be the birth of Memefield's next big dessert trend. The Skinner surprise, maybe.
Ha, I told Mabel I'd put it on the Halloween menu. Hand out slices of spicy sweet surprise at the door.
Oh, please no, the poor trick-or-treaters, they'd be traumatized, running from your doors screaming about spicy bananas.
Maybe they'd thank me for sparing them the usual sugar overload. It's memorable, that's for sure. But honestly, Chalmers, it's amazing how the whole thing turned out.
Who knew you had a hidden talent for the avant-garde? I'm telling you, Skinner, this is just the beginning.
I feel so too. But well, after the show finally wrapped up and the cameras turned off, I was just standing there trying to process everything that had happened. I'm covered in flour, bits of banana, and, somehow, even a sprinkle of parsley. The crew's already laughing, telling me they'd never seen such an impressive display of culinary chaos before.
Oh, I bet they loved it. You probably gave them their best episode in ages.
They seemed to think so. Mabel came over, gave me a big slap on the back, and said, Skinner, you've got the spirit. And the guest judge, who'd somehow actually enjoyed the spicy cake and cocktail, told me I had unique potential, whatever that's supposed to mean.
You should put that on a business card, Skinner, unique potential.
Exactly. Then, out of nowhere, Mabel invites me and the rest of the crew out to dinner. Apparently, it's a bit of a tradition to take guests out after their Oopsa debut, especially if they manage to keep the kitchen in one piece.
Let me guess, they took you somewhere with less fire hazards and mystery ingredients.
Surprisingly, yes, they took us to this cozy little diner across town. Nothing fancy, just burgers, fries, and milkshakes. It was such a shift from the chaos of the studio. I think we all needed something predictable and edible.
So you went from flaming banana cocktails to a good old-fashioned burger. That's quite the upgrade.
Exactly, and everyone was so relaxed. It's funny seeing the crew out of their element. They're just regular folks, chatting about everything from Memefield's weirdest recipes to Mabel's long list of kitchen disasters. And Mabel, well, she's something else. At one point, she picked up her burger, looked at it, and said, too simple. Needs a hint of mystery, and she dunked it in her milkshake.
Oh, that's classic Mabel. She really can't help herself, can she?
Nope, she's a true artist, even with a burger. And of course, the intern you remember, the one who handed me all those mystery ingredients, was nervously asking if he'd labeled everything right. He looked at me and went, "Mr. Skinner, was it really okay?" I was so nervous.
Poor kid, you probably gave him nightmares about labeling paprika as cinnamon.
He was so relieved when I told him that his labels made for some exciting culinary discoveries. Then, just as we're finishing up, the guest judge clinks his milkshake glass and says to Skinner, for proving that chaos and cuisine can, in fact, coexist.
You got a toast for accidentally creating spicy. The sweet cake, you've officially made it, Skinner.
I think I have. They even gave me a little souvenir. And oops, we did it wrong, apron. It's bright orange with "I survived Mabel's kitchen" in big letters.
Oh, that's priceless. You have to wear it around Memfield. Maybe your neighbors will think twice before calling you a celebrity chef.
I might just wear it proudly, Chalmers. I can't decide if this is the start of my cooking career or a sign to stick to microwavable meals.
Either way, it sounds like an unforgettable experience.
It was indeed.
Well, look who's become a true Memfield celebrity. What's next, Skinner? A holiday baking special.
Oh, please, the kitchen might not be my true calling, but I did have a blast stepping out of my comfort zone. I mean, who knew I'd ever be flambeing anything?
Right, flambeing. I never thought I'd hear you say that without a hint of sarcasm. I can already see the headlines. Skinner sets fire to the holidays.
That does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it? But honestly, I'm in fact sure the kitchen is where I belong. I might end up with more fire extinguishers than spatulas, but that's fine.
Maybe you're the next culinary sensation. I mean, the neighbors are calling you Memfield's new Gordon Ramsay anyways.
Oh, that's rich. I can just imagine it now, yelling at my cake. "It's raw, you donut."
Don't forget the other comment I heard, the hottest chef in town, literally. I think that's in reference to your little fire incident.
Yeah, I might have singed a few eyebrows in the process. But hey, it's all part of the experience, right? I just hope they don't start using my cake recipe as a safety warning.
Well, if nothing else, it was entertaining. I was cheering you on in front of the TV the whole time, practically yelling at the screen, "Don't add paprika."
I could hear you from the studio. I'm pretty sure our neighbors were laughing just as hard as you were.
And now they all think you're a cooking wizard. Wait until they find out you've just been throwing random ingredients into a bowl.
Maybe I'll start offering cooking classes, how to get lucky in the kitchen.
And for your grand finale, you could set your dessert on fire.
Exactly, it'll be a culinary spectacle like no other. But for real, if anyone hasn't checked out Oops, We Did It Wrong yet, they should. It's a wild ride, especially with Mabel at the helm. And a big shout out to Loomis of Failing for inspiring this whole crazy adventure.
Absolutely, and who knows, maybe they'll bring you back for a holiday special after all this.
Don't jinx it, but I'd be down for more chaos in the kitchen.
All right, folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, step out of your comfort zone. Who knows what kind of mischief you'll end up in?
And maybe, just maybe, you'll discover your inner celebrity chef along the way.
Or, just end up with a charred mess. Either way, it'll be memorable.
Exactly. Until next time, keep cooking, or trying to anyway.
Bye, everyone.